Well, we're gonna spend an hour together going on a personal journey over the next hour, and it's unrehearsed. It's pretty raw, and I really don't know the timing, but I think there'll be enough time where we've put some microphones out in the audience where would love to be able to interact and take some questions. So we're going to go on a journey together this morning. And we may get a little lost together. We'll laugh a little bit together. We'll probably cry a little bit together as well. But I can assure you that the journey ends, it's like Hollywood. There's always redemption, and it ends in a good place. And so even though we may laugh and cry and get lost a little bit together, we'll land in a very, very good place. And part of my motivation to be able to share kind of a most difficult journey this year is my hope that in sharing this journey, if I can in some way help others in a personal struggle, a professional struggle, a health struggle, and in some way kind of share a mutual strength, and if I can help at least a person, then this will be an hour very, very well spent. And I've sort of entitled this journey On Living because the focus ultimately is on living. And I've picked a mascot. I don't know if anyone knows this Greek mythological character. And this is called a chimera. It has the head of a lion, body of a dragon, and the tail of a snake. And it will make perfect sense about 3/4 the way through the presentation. So just keep that mythical Greek character in mind for a moment. And along the way, and we're going to keep this open all week, for every tweet, a tweet of a picture, a tweet of a comment, a tweet of nothing, a tweet of your own journey, for every tweet, I'm going to donate $1, up to $20,000, to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society of the US and Canada. So let's spread the word a bit and kind of share the journey and share the courage. And for every tweet, we'll donate $1 up to $20,000, and we'll keep this open all the way through close of tomorrow. So we'll go on a journey and also do some good along the way as well. So I promise you not to give you my life story, but we'll start a little bit. Family of 6, that's me as a 2-year-old up on a sled with my sister Amy. Family of 6, so though I think there's 7 in the picture. We never figured out who the other kid was, but there's another kid in that photo. My mom and dad really have no idea who that other child was. We've never figured it out. I was raised in the New York, Connecticut area. Very typical family. I'm very loving, caring, hardworking family, a mom and dad. My dad was an immigrant to the US. My mom was a first-generation American, very hardworking family, and gave everything to their children, everything, sacrificed everything. And it was a home filled with a lot of books and a lot of intellectual curiosity. I'm a product of public education. Always had a love of sports, whether it be golf, tennis, or baseball, and still have a big love of sports, and a great love of learning. And it really kind of comes from my parents and my grandparents. And again, as I mentioned, there was just always books and magazines and encyclopedias and things around the house to read and study and engage into. And I'm also the product of a Catholic education and a Catholic college that really kind of formed my earlier years, and I think my intellectual curiosity and an intellectual foundation as well. And that's a picture of me when I graduated college. I was 20 when I graduated college, and certainly a view of the world filled with a lot of hope and aspiration. After school, I've had the great privilege of working for marquee companies. I've worked for Oracle. I put my badges up. I kind of put a little black dot over my employee numbers, but other than that, the badge is real. I've had the great privilege, and it's been a great honor in my career, to work for very marquee companies. Spent a long time at Oracle, Was head of engineering and CTO and then business development at Computer Associates. Got my first CEO gig at Rackable and Silicon Graphics, SGI. I ended up buying SGI and merging it into Rackable, and that high performance supercomputing space was just a lot of fun. Everywhere from solving problems for NASA, looking for life in the universe. We had this one project with NASA called the Kepler Project. And you hear about it today where you're finding planets in the Goldilocks zone, right? And doing the spectral analysis of those planets that live in that Goldilocks zone. That's on hardware we designed, we built, and we delivered at NASA. It always gives me a smile that if we should find life in the universe, and I hope we do, and I actually think it's quite plentiful, right? As Carl Sagan would say, it's an awfully lonely place if we're the only life out there. That would be found on hardware I helped design and delivered. Boy, that would be a thrill. My greatest thrill actually has been at OpenText. And I hope in many ways this is my last stop on my career. And I hope we get many, many years together here at OpenText. And along the way, I've had mentorship. And I think mentorship is extremely important. And I think it's sort of fallen to the side in kind of leadership today. And I encourage us all to continue with mentorship. Myself, everyone in this room, whether you're a mentor or mentee, find someone either to mentor, or if you want to be a mentee, reach out to someone. Larry Ellison at Oracle was a great formative individual for me and a mentor for near a decade. I'd say the same thing at OpenText. Tom Jenkins. Tom has the ability to think in multiple dimensions like no one I have ever seen. And those are two mentors that have helped me greatly in my professional career. And I encourage mentorship. I think it's something that has fallen to the wayside that I would certainly like to reinvigorate. Been in software for 30 years. I entered this year, 2015, just having a ton of fun, right? In January of 2015, I'd been at OpenText for 3 years. The company just performing great. We'd come off a record quarter. We had doubled the company. John and I had just finished a great road tour and raised over $800 million in capital. That was the major fundraise. We had just closed an acquisition. And I entered 2015 with just an enormous amount of happiness and zeal and ready to attack 2015. As we got into February, I had turned 50 in late January. And I encourage everybody to do an annual physical. Right? If you don't do an annual physical, then you're just setting yourself up for trouble. Annual physicals are easy. In fact, you might even want to do a physical twice a year. Maybe every 6 months you go in, you give blood, and just look at the test results. The next 6 months you do a physical. And I don't care if you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, do an annual physical. It's easy. And maybe on the off 6 months, just go in and give your CBC, CMP, 4 tubes of blood, go home and look at the results, right? But I had just turned 50, I had just completed my annual physical, and I knew something was wrong. I was feeling a fatigue that I had never felt before. And for those who know me, I'm a fairly private person, and I run on adrenaline all the time. But I tell you, I powered through something in November and December and January, and it was a different type of fatigue. It was, and in looking back, I now can describe it of kind of this tiredness where my body couldn't carry oxygen. But I powered through all of this with just, I think, adrenaline, kind of that Baron Shea adrenaline kind of pushing me through December and January. But there was one night in February where I literally could not get out of bed. I couldn't get out of bed and walk from that corner to the bathroom. I'd done something I'd never done in my life. I picked up the phone, I called 911 because something was wrong, right? I didn't know if I was going into diabetic shock. I didn't know if I was going to have a heart attack, but I couldn't walk from there to here at all. So I called 911, and it was a night of nights. I was in Berkeley at home. Ambulance took me to a local hospital, and it was very hard to stabilize me. But we finally kind of got there. And my blood test came back, and I had a white blood cell count of 330,000. And for anyone who knows white blood cells, this number should be like 3 or 4. And it was 330,000. I had a hemoglobin of 4. And for rightful purposes, I should have been dead that night on these sort of counts. And the diagnosis came back very quickly. It was leukemia. And I'll get into the type of leukemia here in a moment. And leukemia is a very complex disease. It's a disease that wants to win, and it's a disease that's going to fight you all the way. And I'll talk a little bit about that. And the type of leukemia that was diagnosed is acute myeloid, or myeloic, acute myeloid leukemia, AML. It's one of the tougher leukemias. There is no good leukemia, but there are tougher leukemias, and AML is one of the tougher leukemias. And this is where one day, and it's the acute part, right? Acute means sudden, right? Suddenly, my bone marrow decided to wake up and blast out cells. And the origins and the whys of leukemia are still not known. But for some reason, my bone marrow decided to blast out immature blood cells, and in particular, white blood cells. And so that count of white blood cells, which was starting to clog my system up, were all these immature cells, just like a Gatling gun, firing out of my bone marrow. So the diagnosis was leukemia, and in particular acute myeloid leukemia, or what's called blasts, if you will, blood blasts. And instantly, my life would never be the same. It's a life-threatening cancer. And I kicked into high gear for education, as most people would do. And I can tell you, there's no book you can buy on AML. There's no good website. There's either kind of the 6-year-old version of AML, or there's a PhD blood journal of AML. And there's nothing in the middle, really, to learn about it. But you had to kick into high gear. Like most threatening, either or challenging professional situations or life-threatening situations. And I kicked into high gear. I kicked into high gear of learning about AML, learning about doctors, protocols, hospitals. And the difference, one of the most difficult things to figure out early was the difference between protocols. Right? You think of a brand name from Stanford to Johns Hopkins to MD Anderson to Princess Margaret. They're all great brands, and they're all great doctors, but they all think different. And they just all think different on how to go attack a problem. And you have to very quickly kind of understand what you want to do. You also have to be your best advocate, which I'll talk a little bit about. For me, I also decided, given my role and kind of how I think, it was very important to default communications to on. And for a lot of folks, the reaction can be to retreat, to become more silent, to become more introvert, if you will. I decided to default to on my communications. And ultimately, I did a press release, and we're ending up here, talking about the journey. I also decided that I needed to learn this thing down to the atomic level. And I'm not quite there yet, but I'm pretty darn close of learning kind of the thing I needed to fight. As I've done in my professional career, I had to do in this personal journey as well, to learn this thing down to the atomic level. As in life, as in work, needed to find the experts. And it was the most difficult journey that I've ever been on in my life. And I'll tell you, I found a new zone in my brain around mental toughness that I'll describe a little bit about.